Hi guys, it's part 2 of story time. So I'd like to kind of share something with you guys because of a video that I made. It was directed to me by God, and God asked me to give a real life example of how I deal with something, what happened to me, and what I did. So part 2. So if you haven't seen part one is about a friend who kind of dropped the ball on me twice. Probably, that I felt dropped the ball on me twice, but that I was clear when I said that when I make this video, I'm actually talking to myself as well and calling myself out in the ways where I have done this. So I'm recognizing myself in the mirror and knowing that it's not just about my friend, okay? I'm calling us both out because we're both building a business. We're both loyal, good people. And we also have stuff that happens, right? And so it's not that I'm not sympathetic. In fact, one of the things that I was hesitant about making the second video was because, or the first one was because I hold no grievances, so why am I holding on to that one, right? So that's what I said when I said to God, why do you want me to make this video? And he said, you'll understand later. I was like, okay, And so here's the other part of that. So here is how I dealt with this all of it, okay? So the second part of this is I didn't feel the money was owed to me. I honestly gave it willingly with no expectation of return. So to be honest, it's not owed to me. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm letting that go. All right. What that person was paying for was my focus and my attention, like my consistent focus and attention. So that to me is not a loss. All right. What I did for that person was pray for her success and her business. I prayed for her unlimited success in her business. And even though that was on my mind, and even though it's a conversation we need to have, it's not a conversation where I'm upset or angry or anything, because it's a reminder to both of us, okay? Today, in my mastermind, I taught a class in which I explained how to see in the world. And the most important part about seeing, okay, this is the 26th quote in the Gospel of Thomas, is where basically what we're saying in essence is, in order to be able to see correctly, we must understand ourselves as the source. So in no way, shape, or form was I blaming or holding a grievance, but I was taking corrective action to fix what was happening in the moment rather than bypassing. And in that moment, I did not sugarcoat it with positivity and ignore what was happening. I did not pretend it didn't happen. I did not go, oh, it's all good, and ignore my human person in the moment. No, in that moment, I did what we're all called to do. And that is pray for your person. Pray in the face of what's going on. And, the clarity of it all. Because even as it's happening to me, the one thing I know, see, for me, like, I'm pretty much really good on my karma. I'm not gonna lie, my karma's great. It's always coming to me good. So whenever something like this happens, as little as it may be, it stands out like a sore thumb because it's not normal. It's not my normal. My normal is great karma all the time. Always in flow, always going well. Awesome life that sometimes I may even take for granted because it's so normal to me. So whenever something goes off, it's like, wait a minute, okay? And perhaps a lot of you, until you become aware that you control your life and that everything is happening for you, and there's a call inward to correct yourself, and as well that gives you the ability to point out to friends what is going on, you can do so respectfully and without judgment and without anger and without reproach, because you know that this person did you a huge favor to show you into your own self, into your own actions. Where have you done this? Even if it's exaggerated, where have you done this in your life? When you start to understand that, that changes things deeply within yourself. And you're able to not only deal with triggers, you're dealing with things when they go off, and you're doing so in peace. You're not doing it by bypassing it. You're not doing it by not looking at it. You're not doing it by not participating in it. In fact, you are taking that opportunity to call yourself out, call everything out, and correct it in the moment. And when you do that, even as it's being done to you, you are demonstrating a real, deep sense of love, respect, and honor for the messenger who made you aware of something that you needed to correct in yourself. Rather than going, you just triggered me, or I'm upset over your actions. Because I was not. In fact, that's what was so strange about me making that first video, right? Because it was a grievance. But I'm explaining my thought process, why I did it, and my second part of this, all directed by God. Because these are real life examples. These are things that happen to us on a regular basis. Not just this, but anything. And you must, in real time, apply what you've learned, okay, and see it done. See, because right now, even though that was done to me, I have no doubt in her success. I have no doubt in her intentions. I have no doubt in who she is as a person or as a coach, okay? Like none, because all of the qualities that that woman is are the same qualities that I am. So I recognized myself in her instantly, and I was like, oh, this is my soul group. Right? So then why call it out? Because we're not supposed to ignore life. We're supposed to deal with it head on. And when you strive to be this type of person who, when tested, can truly treat another like you wish you would be treated, with honor, respect, and kindness, and you act in the same way, whereas even though you may be holding a grievance, you got to understand this person. If you really understand radical forgiveness, and you really understand source perspective, this person is a messenger pointing you inward to fix yourself. And even if it hurt in the moment, you had best get to the point where you can appreciate this lesson big time, because this is a huge opportunity to fix a tiny little thing that is wrong with you. And the reason this is so important, if you know anything about my journey and how I learned to heal triggers, and those of you who haven't seen my old material, go back and look at it. It's really old, maybe 2, 3, 4 years old, maybe, where I teach how to deal with triggers real time. The reason this is so important, okay, and if you didn't catch that through what I tried to teach, is this. The littlest thing when it's off, if you do not correct it in the moment, will expand. And then come back into your timeline, and then expand again, and then expand again, and then expand again, until that tiny little action becomes a huge grievance that comes back and hits you in the stomach really hard. That's why they say karma, whatever you send out, be prepared, because you're going to get it times 3. It's actually times 10. Okay? Because it's nothing to God to work the law, both forward and reverse. It's nothing to God to do that. So it's times 10. Usually, that's when we learn the consequence of our actions. Usually when we're on the receiving end of something, that's when we learn the consequence of our actions. And so that person that played that role is not your enemy. Maybe disguised as your enemy. It's not your enemy. And that's why I guess I had to use this light example, because she would never be my enemy. This is somebody I truly, deeply love, respect, and admire. Definitely me. But in correcting it in us both at the same time, we can stop this from becoming a big old whammy that hits us hard, okay? Because sometimes the reason a business isn't taking off is because this little thing within yourself keeps coming back to smack in your face so you can pay attention to it and fix it. So if someone loves you enough to call you out on that, and also recognize it in themselves and want to fix it in themselves with no judgment, then that is the proper way to deal with a grievance. That is the proper way. That's what Christ meant when he said, turn the other cheek. Turn it away for a second, turn it back into your spirit and let your spirit teach you how to handle that. And so I know that when something like that happens to me, I pray for that person. And that was a hard one because usually the human side, and this is why I'm speaking on it, right? The human side of you really, really, truly, right, wants to punch back. You feel hurt, right? I understand that temptation. I'm asking you to turn away from the temptation to return hatred for hatred and give love back instead. Give love back instead. And I will be quite honest with you guys, I'm not always perfect at it. Have you not noticed? I have a boundary and I snap back, okay? This is not intentional. This was my survival technique in a world that wanted me to conform to it when I refused. So I have a snapback. That's my autopilot. I'm well aware of it. Okay? So I'm not always perfect at it. But if I ever receive this on a large scale, it's because I've been that in myself. So here's my opportunity to correct my own karma and appreciate the messenger who, even though may have caused pain, has just woken you up. And this can happen in so many ways, you guys. Sometimes it's just slander. Sometimes because we don't agree with a certain specific action and we cannot place ourselves in their shoes. We talk all this stuff about our position, right? And so this is comments why politics works so well, because it plays on human nature. And so then, right, we're unconsciously aware that in that moment, because we don't like how they think we're being hateful, right? What happens when you receive that hate back? Are you aware that that person is showing you what you did in the past? Because this is your opportunity to correct something. And it could be something as simple as slander. Your hateful words create beings in your life. All words create things, people. It creates matter. And if you're not aware how, what, when, and where your story is playing out so you can understand your interactive experience, you're going to miss your mark. But everything in this world is here to serve you. Everything. Even my friend. So as you can see, this is my true, honest opinion over all that. But I did it in 2 parts because I wanted you guys to think, when this happened to you, or when something similar happened to you, how did you behave? Did you take the way of the spirit, the one that I'm talking about right now? Or did you retaliate in your mind with words and grievances? Did you throw the guilt back in their face? Did you smack it back? Did you return evil for evil? Did you forget that you're the source of it? It just bounces back. You're not doing it to anybody else. You're doing it to yourself. Or did you humble yourself before that person, pray for them, and pray for the best outcome for all? Did you turn away? Did you turn the other cheek? Did you turn it towards God in you? In that moment when you were tempted to be hatred, did you take the way of love? Did you? Because if you haven't, then the deficit is what you're experiencing. When you're asking yourself, why has my life been up and down? It creates in all directions, both forward and reverse. It's always been you. So this is the moment you have an opportunity to understand why everything in your life. And that's so important because, as I explained to many of you, when you ask why of causation, you suffer. When you understand why, you have the clarity of mind to respond, not react. So this is my message to that person. I love her with all my heart. I respect her with all my heart. I was not singling her out. That's why I didn't give any names or anything. and I prayed for her success. Because ultimately I know who she is, and that's how I was. Ultimately, if I did it unconsciously because my chaos in my life was happening. If I did it, I didn't realize. It was never intentional, because you don't set out to hurt anyone when you love yourself this way, right? So in that moment, who was shown but myself? And she was a beautiful messenger. So when you can look at a painful situation or something that triggers you this way, you have understood both the dark and the light and how it serves you. That's not an easy thing to do in the moment. And that's why that video was in 2 parts. And that's what was strange about Cindy calling out a grievance. What? Yeah. I was directed by God to do so. The ways of the Spirit are opposite of the ways of the flesh. But the ways of the Spirit will ensure everyone's success, will remove your enemies from your plate, and will make your life a smooth sailing vessel. Eventually, the more love you put out, and even though this is not why you do it, the more love you put out in the world, the more protected you are by that love. It also becomes your unconscious state. This state, this that I just did here, this video, this second video, this is growth for me. My autopilot is to react, an eye for an eye. That's my human way. My spirit way says no. My Christ way says no. My love first says no. So the next time something like this happens to you, please take a moment to pray, to turn away. Turn to that power inside of you. Test it. Test it. It's begging you to test it. It really is. It's begging you to do it. And here's the paradox I taught the class today. I'll give you this little nugget that they have, okay? When you're struggling the most, when things are really hard, or they seem harder than usual, when you're the metaphorical mouse backed in the corner and the cat's got you and there's nowhere to go because the cat's blocking both ways and there's a wall, there's a corner, there's nowhere else to go. This feels to the human being to be the most difficult thing you're going through. It feels horrible, okay? The paradox is, this is the best moment of your life. This is the opportunity that you have to turn inward because you've got nowhere else to go. You place this power on your spirit, and even though you can't see it, and even though it sort of feels like it's outside of you, it's technically inside of you, because the whole universe is your body, so what's outside is actually the inside. When you place that force in there, right, that's the precise moment, right as that cat's about to swing, that a cup falls off the shelf, distracting the cat, and you can take off. That is God's power. And you discover that the fastest when you've got nowhere else to go, when it's really between a rock and a hard place. So for those of you that are struggling, this is your opportunity to test it, build that faith, and understand what it's like real time to put it into effect. What it's like not to hold grievances, what it's like to pray for those that hurt you, what it's like not to retaliate, and also give yourself grace. Because like I said, my autopilot, you say something, yeah! That's my autopilot, okay? I'm well aware of it. I do my best to control it, and I have a lot more patience than people give me credit for, okay? So when you understand that, and you can do that real time, you're not only going to see your friend's success, you're going to see your success. Because that little thing that you had will no longer become a big thing. And that is how it works. Because all of your life is created both forward and reverse, and it is only you. And when you fix you like this, everything turns out okay. I promise. All right, you guys. That's part 2 of the first one. Take it in, see where you fall short, and if you have, no time like the present to fix it. And do this for yourselves. This will correct business issues, the deals that are falling through, the lack of income, the slowness of things. This corrects that. Because I want you to remember, you do not exist in the world if you remember that you have a force inside of you that exists above it and that fixes everything like that. Turn to that force. Trust in that force. And remember, when you're between that rock and the hard place, that's the best time to test it. You got nothing to lose. And then maybe next time, that'll be your first go-to instead of your last. Okay? Thank you, guys.